right, welcome back to Play by Play with Jay. I'm your host Jordan, aka Jay, and I have a very, very special guest here in the building. You can go ahead and introduce yourself really quick.
What's going on, Jay? Hey, this is Fred Stokes, former NFL Super Bowl champion with the former Washington Redskins, now the Washington football team. I just had to get that out there, the Super Bowl champions. That's all. And I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
I mean, okay. What year? I'm not going to get into that right now. We'll talk about that. So, really quick, just because it's a really good bio on your page, and we'll talk about your company and your brand as well. But I'll just read his bio real quick so you guys, if you know him, you love him. If you don't, we're going to get to know him really quickly. So, while attending high school in Vidalia, Georgia, Fred excelled in basketball and track. However, it wasn't until his senior year that he decided to play football. As a result, Fred was offered a full scholarship to play football for Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia, under the legendary coach Irk Russell. While at Georgia Southern, Fred played a vital role on 2 national championship teams, both in 1985 and in 1986. Fred was the only one of 2 players on his team voted first team All-American after his senior year as an offensive tackle. Fred was then drafted into the NFL, where he would spend the next 10 years playing defensive end for the Los Angeles/St. Louis Rams, formerly known Washington Redskins, and the New Orleans Saints. Fred had the awesome privilege of playing in and winning Super Bowl 26 with the 1991 Washington Redskins against the Buffalo Bills. In that game, Fred recorded 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and recovered another. Fred's Redskins teammates affectionately labeled him Big Play Stokes because of his knack for making big play at the right time of a game. Fred is a highly sought-after keynote speaker, delivering his motivational/inspirational messages on the main stage, in workshops, and at weekend retreats. He's also a part of the Vistage Speakers Bureau. Fred presents globally for both live and virtual events. In addition, Fred found the time to write and publish the autobiography entitled The Bridge That Brought Me Over, which I read, by the way. It's a good book. Fred and his wife Regina have Regina, she's going to kill me for that. Regina have 3 boys, Lance, Landon, and Luke, who are 3 my cousins. So yes, this is my Uncle Fred. He married my Auntie Regina a long, long time ago. I think he's been my uncle for as long as I've been in the world, right? I think so.
Well, yeah, I think, what are you, 30 now?
I'm 23. I'm 23 and a quarter.
Hey, you want to hang on to those 30s. You know what I'm saying?
But yes. So yeah, this is my uncle. But yeah, Super Bowl champion, NFL veteran. So what was that like? Just being in the NFL, being, I guess living the dream. Being the best of the best.
You know what, Jordan? Again, thank you for having me on the show. You have an amazing show. I've been listening to it since you came out, and you came out the box swinging, girl, so keep going. When you read my bio, it just reminds me that I almost did, the Super Bowl for me almost didn't happen because I only played that 1 year high school football, right. And it was my senior year. and I tell people the only reason I played my senior year was because it was my senior year. It wasn't like I had any thoughts of playing NFL or, hey, going to college to play football. It was just like, you know what I'm saying? You've heard the saying, hey, let's go out with a bang, or right. Hey, let's finish strong, or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? And so that was my mindset as an 18-year-old kid, or 17-year-old kid at the time, going into senior year, and then getting drafted, getting a full scholarship to go to Georgia Southern. So all of those thoughts, to your question, came rushing back to my mind when I won the Super Bowl. Like, wow, this is amazing, but it almost didn't happen.
That's interesting, and I'm literally scrolling through your website right now. Just a quick pivot. So what? I didn't even know about Limb Brother. Honestly, my dad told me. He was like, "You know about Limb Brother?" I was like, "Limb Brother?" He's like, "Your uncle doing all this kind of stuff." And I'm reading on the homepage. The first thing I see is every man, no matter his status, position, or title, needs another man who he can bare his soul to. So really quick, what's Limb Brother like? Tell us about that.
You know what? Again, Jordan, just kind of taking you through the steps. From going back to high school through college and the pros. A lot of times men end up fighting by themselves, but when you look at athletes, even the best in the world, the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron James, Michael Jordans, Tom Brady's of the world, the great quarterbacks, baseball players, they don't do it by themselves. And so in the world, men, we think we do, but we don't make it. We can't make it by ourselves. Right. And I share with men that if you're fighting by yourself, then you're going to get beat up. And so over the process of a number of years, it kind of progressed and slowly but surely kind of filtered out that the more I talked about it and told men they need to get down to the lint in their pocket, meaning that they need to be able to talk about their finances. They need to be able to talk about, because we talk about what kind of car we drive, with your keys. We rarely talk about the money we have in the bank, even though everybody's bankrolling. And so it just was a process like that, Jordan. And I was talking with my wife, your Aunt Regina, and it just kept saying, hey guys, y'all got to get down to the lint, And over time, it just kind of filtered out. Wait a minute, that means what? Life I never tell. So Lint, the Lint, stands for life I never tell. And because men don't talk. And to that point, men commit suicide on average 4 times to 1 with women. Wow. Also, I just found out the other day that, suicide rate is like up 200% since COVID. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that is the lint brother, that every man needs a lint brother, needs a brother that he can get down to the lint in the pocket of his life and be able to talk about those things.
That's awesome. And I mean, I know that's what you've always been about, and that's what you instilled in, your boys, my cousins, and just being strong men who are open and honest with themselves and their feelings. And I know that's what you're all about. So I just wanted to touch on that really quick before we get into the nitty gritty, what everybody wants to hear about. So I would say, now again, I wasn't even born when you had your lengthy career, but you had a good career. Would you agree?
I did. The average lifespan in the NFL, I'm sure now, I think when I was playing, it was less than 3 years. Actually, like 2-point-something years. And for me to play 10 years in the National Football League, it's a feat, but it wasn't, I didn't do it by myself. It wasn't because I was so big, fast, or strong. It was just that's what God wanted me to be for those 10 years.
Right. And so I'm looking at your numbers here now. If I miss, this is from ESPN directly. So overall in your career, 70 solo tackles, 38 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. Does that sound ballpark about what Fred Stokes was doing back in the day?
That's about ballpark what is, because you think about 10 years and 38 stacks. I actually only played, my first 2 years, I only played 16 games because I played eight games my first year, 8 games my second year. I was backing up the great Charles Mann and Dexter Manley, those 2 bookends, who are 2 amazing guys as well. They have a podcast too. I want to shout out to my friends. Charles, it's a Manly Man podcast. So if you're listening, check those guys out too. They're my friends. But backing up those guys my 3rd year. So 38 sacks in that number of years. I got a chance. I'm blessed. To be able to have that many sacks, forced fumbles, and also the 1 interception. So and I was looking, I was breaking down and going year by year, and I was saying, okay, he started this year, he wasn't starting this year, and I think one season you had about 6.5 sacks, and then it went up, and it was like 8.5, maybe 9.5. I'm like, okay, this is 8. I don't know if he would be putting up them numbers today, but I'm just saying he was rushing the quarterback. That's what I was saying. So would you go ahead? No, I was doing my thing.
So would you say that you honestly, sincerely gave it your all? Did you have more to give at the end of your career? Like how was it transitioning to, the end of your playing career?
You know what, Jordan? By the end of my playing career, I was done. I mean, I had 2 knee surgeries. When I got to the Saints in my 10th year, I had 2 knee surgeries. And probably had I not had the 2 knee surgeries, I probably would have played out the remainder of my contract. I signed a 3-year deal with the Saints, which would have taken me to 12 years, which is extremely long. But I had no serious injuries up until that 10th year. And then in my 10th year, I had 2 knee surgeries, one at the beginning of the season and before training camp, and the other one sometime in November. And by that time, I was singing the old blues song, "The Thrill Is Gone, Baby."
Yeah. I get it. And I was going to ask about some injuries too, but so we can just go right into that. So what was your health like during your entire career? I know they need injuries, but
you know what? I tell people playing in the NFL is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, but it's also one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because I can remember days going to work, and yes, it's work. No matter what you see on TV, guys having fun, talking trash, hyping it up, it's work. It's serious work. But there were days I went to practice, Jordan, went to work with a headache and thinking like, God, how am I going to put my helmet on? I played with dislocated fingers. I had shoulder surgery on my left shoulder 2 years before. Actually, the year before we won the Super Bowl, I got surgery in '92 after the Super Bowl, and then played another year. I've had 2 knee surgeries. I've had ankle problems. I'm better than most. I'm probably worse than some, but I'm better than most.
Mm-hmm. And so I know a lot of people say, or they discover after, especially with like Aaron Hernandez and players like that with CTE, and they discover later on that, they have all these problems were because of what happened during their career.
You know what? That's a great question, and great lead way into the injuries and stuff. I had probably 1 concussion, maybe 2 concussions that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. That's the key word that you remember. Yeah.
I like that. So you caught that. No, but serious talk. The thing with concussion is there are parents out there, and if you listen to this podcast, which I hope you are, It's not necessarily the concussions, Jordan. It's what they do after the concussions.
Right.
Back when I was playing, you get a concussion, they put up the couple of fingers, how many fingers, 1, 2, what day is it, who are we playing? If you can answer those very, very minor, simple questions, it was like, okay, coach is ready to play. So now they're taking more precaution. You can't go in the game unless you're cleared by a doctor. But CTE is real. I mean,
Right.
I pray. My wife, your Aunt Regina, she talks about it, and thank God I'm fine, and I believe I'm going to be fine until he calls me home. But I have no issues with it. But it's a real scenario and a real issue for players.
Right. I mean, because I play fantasy football. I don't know if you knew that. And one of my players, I try to keep up with the games, but it's so many going on. And David Johnson, running back for, I forgot, I think the Texans, he got a concussion and he's on IR for, I think, a few weeks. And that's, I mean, that's like not one of the first times they've done it, but it's kind of rare that they, maybe they'll set out a week, maybe 2, but I mean, they said at least 3 to 4 weeks. I was like, oh, so they're making sure that they're taking the proper precautions, moving forward, especially with the Aaron Hernandez documentary coming out.
That, with Aaron Hernandez, but hundreds of players.
Right.
We've got lawsuits, we've got grievances that are filed, and the NFL tried to deny it initially. And then if you've seen the movie with Will Smith, I mean, it's a real situation that they tried to cover up. And so they understand that, and the NFL is about dollars and cents. Don't get it twisted, because they understand that their product is real human beings. And if we don't have anybody in the pipeline, these high school kids and these small kids coming up, then we're not going to have an industry, 15, 20 years from now. So they're trying to make sure they're taking all precautions. And yes, now you have a guy taking a week or 2 off from just a minor concussion. As before, when I was playing, you answer those simple questions I mentioned, you're back in the game. But you're
Right. So you made a good point just talking about the NFL still being a business. But what was it like winning a Super Bowl? Not many players, it's a lot of players, okay, handful of people make it to the league, you're that good, but not many players even get to play in a game, be a factor in the game, which I want to talk about. I heard about you. Be a factor in the game, and then, win the Super Bowl. So what was that like? Take me through that.
You know what? It was amazing. Again, like I said, when I won the Super Bowl, all these emotions of playing 1-year high school football and watching the NFL and Super Bowl, a lot of Super Bowls before I got there. When I got that first sack in the Super Bowl, Jordan, I was almost hyperventilating. I was so excited, and in my mind, I was thinking, man, this is not just on national television. There's people watching this around the world, and to win it. To your point, I remember hearing that the great quarterback with the Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino. He went to the Super Bowl his rookie year, and he lost. And he said, "You know what? I won't worry about it. I'll be back." 14 years later, at his retirement, he'd never gone back. So when I hear players like that, I play with a guy named Jackie Slater who played 20 years in the NFL, doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. When I think about things like that, it puts it in perspective and makes it a valuable piece of hardware. And that's why you play the game anyway, to win it all.
Right. And I've seen the ring. It's pretty nice. It's nice in person.
29 diamonds in it, you know what I'm saying? But who's counting?
Oh my goodness. And just a quick pivot, and this is off the top of my head. There was a situation a few years ago. I was probably a little girl, and there was a tornado, and the tornado wiped out your house. In Georgia at the time you guys now live in Florida, and you lost a lot of belongings, and I think you lost a lot of Super Bowl or like just memorabilia as well. So how was that for you emotionally?
Man, you're good, Jordan. You are really good. Wow, you are good. But you know what? That for me, and that's a great question, because you're saying how was it for me losing it all, having gone to Super Bowl? I lost all of that memorabilia.
Right.
If you remember, there was a room in my house up over the garage. We had a 4-car garage, and the boys called it the football room. So that's
it had the green with the yep.
It had a real football field and carpet. And so when that tornado, it was a Category 4 tornado, destroyed our house in 2008. So you can go back and reference that. In 2008, Mother's Day weekend, 2008, that Category 4 tornado came through. Jordan, I stood out there, and there was a television station that came down, a news reporter from Savannah News, Channel 3, I believe it was, and he interviewed me. He said, Fred, his first question was, Fred, you've lost everything. How do you feel? Same question you asked, and that's why I said it was really good. I looked around, Jordan, at all the stuff that I had accumulated, all the money that we had spent in accumulating that stuff, and I told that reporter, I haven't lost everything. And he was kind of taken back. And I said, I've got my wife, I've got my 3 boys, Lance, Landon, and Luke here, if they were gone, I'd have been a wreck. But that stuff, that's just sticks and bricks.
Right.
Blood is not easily replaced. Sticks and bricks, it can, not that it didn't matter, it was valuable things. And to the point about the Super Bowl ring, I just happened to take my Super Bowl ring with me to Orlando that weekend, or else it would have been gone.
Right.
But everything else, all the footballs, all the jerseys, all that stuff is gone. I don't have any more. But I do have the memories.
Right.
So great question. Yes, ma'am.
Right. And that's what's important. But no, I definitely, my brain was just when I was like, wait a second, that did happen. So then that's a good segue. Yeah. So of the three organizations that you played for, so the Rams, the former Washington Redskins, and the New Orleans Saints, and I think I know the answer, but I don't know. Which was your favorite city to live in?
Dang, you went, girl. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to listen. You on the ball, girl. I'm like, you know, which was my favorite team? I'm ready.
No.
Your favorite city?
Favorite city. Favorite team is too easy. You want a Super Bowl. I think I know the answer to that.
Okay, you're right. That's really good. I was not thinking about that. So the favorite city, and you don't get that question all the time. I'd probably have to say New Orleans, just because of the history of New Orleans, the food, the etouffee, what did they have? God, I can't think of the sandwiches.
Crawfish, beignets. Yeah.
Oh man, my brain is so, it's like my tongue is stuck in the face right now. But New Orleans is my important because the question you asked, yes, the great city of New Orleans and the food and the cuisine that they have, hands down.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great segue, because now we're going to shift into a little bit of personal life. So like I said a million times before, yes, he is my uncle. He married my auntie a long, long time ago. So how was it? We all want to know. How was it being married, but being a professional athlete? I mean, we got to know. We know you used to go on the road and used to be on away trips, and she don't go with you everywhere. I'm sorry, auntie. I know she's probably like, oh, yeah.
See, now you're getting in my business. But no, I'm going to keep it real, because this is, what's the name of this show? This is okay.
It's the play-by-play. Just give us but what was it like? Like, what is it?
I can't give you a play-by-play. Okay, but I will keep it real. Girl, this girl is amazing. Okay. So Jordan, to that question, I'm the first thing come to my mind, in all seriousness, is I thank God that I was married during my NFL career. I accepted Christ in my life at an early stage in my career, which those two things in and of themselves were like buffers. They were barriers, if you will, that they didn't protect me, because marriage doesn't protect you. You have guys that profess to be Christians all the time. They fall, they stumble, but and it doesn't keep people from giving you their numbers or reaching out to you. And so it was tough. But I'm thanking God that those things in and of themselves made it a lot more bearable. And I was able to keep the main thing, which I was there to play football, be a blessing to my family. And it opened doors for me to travel around the country, around the world, actually, and do what I do.
Right. And so I think we see often, more so now than before, on social media, and all the athletes, and they'll have their families on the fields after the game, and they look so cute and adorable. But I know that it's a serious sacrifice being a professional athlete and having a family. So what was that, like raising children, and sometimes being halfway across the world, and they're over here and there. And I know some of my cousins were born. They were all born in different states, depending on where you were playing for us. What was that like?
Well, you're right. Each one of the boys were born in different states. Lance, the oldest, was born in Washington. Landon was born in LA. And then Luke, our youngest, who's now 24, was born in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I think raising my kids, and Lance was the oldest. He understood a little bit about the game. He was there when I played my last game in St. Louis. He got a chance to go to the game. I'm not sure how much of that he remembers. Landon was born in LA when I was with the Rams. The thing, Jordan, afterwards, is that people started asking our kids, are you going to be an NFL football player like your dad? I think that can be pressure put upon. So I had to let the boys know that Daddy played football. That's what God wanted me to do. You guys may not see the light of day in an NFL football field.
Right.
And one time they did ask me, they was like, Dad, as they got older, they was like, do we have to say yes when people ask us, we're going to be a football? I was like, no. You say you're going to be a rocket scientist or something. So I tried to as much as I could, keep everything just natural for them
Right.
without it being so over the top. And obviously, when they went with me, traveled, and people wanted autographs or pictures, they got a chance to see that their dad, was a celebrity. But I still try to keep them, again, the main thing is that we have a normal life. We just been blessed. We're no different than anybody else. We're not better than anybody else.
Right.
We've just been very fortunate to play in the NFL.
And I think that's what I can also say. I know some people, have quote unquote famous or celebrity relatives, and I'm like, that's just my Uncle Fred. Like, I don't even think of you. Then I'm like, wait a second, he did do that. He is, people do recognize him, and we might go out and see him. So yeah, I appreciate you for being like that, and then of course my auntie's like that as well, but raising my cousins to be like that as well, because they're some of the most humble people that you would ever meet.
Well, you know what? That's what I'm going to be doing as we keep this show rolling. The play-by-play with Jay, I'm gonna be like, that's just my niece, man. I know her.
Yeah. So when I blow up,
Jordan, you've already blown up. You know what I'm saying? It's just the world got to recognize it, girl.
So we're just gonna that was a great pivot. So look at you helping me with my transition. So if you didn't get drafted, what do you think you would have ended up doing? Where do you think your life would have taken you?
You may be surprised with my answer, Jordan, but I probably would have been driving trucks. And the reason, and I say 18-wheelers, the reason I say that is because my uncle, my mother's younger brother, worked and drove trucks, actually retired as a truck driver, working for an organization called Piggly Wiggly. Like Winn-Dixie, Piggly Wiggly, Publix, and all. It was an organization called Piggly Wiggly. He drove trucks for that company. I remember going out there to the warehouse when I was in high school. And so I enjoyed driving. I enjoy driving to this day. I can drive for hours with no music, just because it helped me think and relax and kind of, as I say, stay grounded. So I probably would end up driving trucks.
Okay, and I never told you this, but you remind me so much, and you know of him, Shannon Sharp. You guys just have that old school, that country boy, that southern, but also not your stories are similar, but they just mirror each other a little bit in the sense that he didn't come from much. He really had to just work hard for everything, and that's not only how you are, but how I see you. So how did that, just where you came from, your upbringing, how did that mold and shape you into who you are, not only on the field, but off the field as well?
Well, you know what? Dang, this girl is so good. I'm sorry, Jordan. I listened to your show, but to be here on live now in person, you know what I'm saying, to see my girl doing her thing. But you know what? Here's one I say for you and your listeners as well. Go back and do the research. The guys who are drafted in the lower rounds, and now they only have like 7 rounds, I think, in NFL draft. But the guys that are drafted in the lower rounds tend to do better, last longer in the NFL than the first round draft picks, because sometimes when you're entitled and you've always had things given to you, you don't work as hard. And so here's one for you, Jordan, to do your research on this and see what you come up with. Do your research and see how many guys that have been successful, and maybe Hall of Famers even, that grew up in impoverished country boy things like you're talking about with Shannon Sharp, the guys who grew up on the what some churches did, the rough side of the mountain, and see what you find. I think you'll find out across the board, no matter what position they play, I think across the board, you find those guys actually were tougher. I think you deal with life better when you come up that way. Not that you have to, but that's just the way it is, and that's probably the resemblance that you're referencing with Shannon Sharp. It's just growing up in the country. And I tell people, Jordan, I am country. I'm country with a K. Kuntree.
Well, no, because in my promo, I literally said, I was like, he loves to wear bootcut jeans and cowboy boots. And I mean, we were somewhere in my grandma's hometown, and you were pulling out. I was like, oh, are those cowboy boots? He said, yeah, from my trunk. I'm like, what you mean? I'm like, what do you mean you got cowboy boots? You just keep them on you all day. So yeah, that's the definition of country if I've ever seen it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you know what? A lot of that stuff and we forgot, we had almost 100 acres that was destroyed up there. We had 4 horses. So yes, I wear boots and jeans almost every day.
I had one too. One of them horses was mine, Randy. That was my horse. Yes.
Yes, that's right.
I was heartbroken by that. But yeah, so now let's get into some football, right? It's been, the NFC East is the worst. Is probably the worst division of football this year. I think so. I would
agree with that, yes.
Yeah, I would say so. But you guys are doing better than us. The Washington football team is performing, I don't know, I mean, by what, a game? I think y'all are maybe 3-7, something along.
You know what, Jordan, it's nothing to brag about when you're fighting for last place. You know what I'm saying? You try to see.
I'm hoping and praying that the Cowboys are, I mean, we can't tank anymore, but I would love a top 5 draft pick just start over, start from the top. But you guys, is your defensive line. I love Chase Young. You know, Chase Young is actually from around this area. I used to play soccer with his sister, so I've known Chase since we were kids. And so I'm so happy to see him thriving, not on your team, but I'm happy to see him doing well somewhere in the NFL. But your defensive line is pretty good. I mean, I don't know about anything else though. I don't like the what happened, the Dwayne Haskins benching. I didn't necessarily agree with that. Because I just feel like there's a longer leash for white quarterbacks than there is for black quarterbacks. And I feel like if, just like Lamar Jackson, I mean, people are beating him down to the cows come home, but other not as quality quarterbacks are just out here just running wild. So what do you feel, or how do you feel about how your team, because are you a Washington football team fan? Is that the team you rock with these days?
You know what, I am particularly just, I won't say just because, but that's where I won the Super Bowl with those guys. So I still have a lot of relationships there. My former teammates and I are still great friends. Darryl Green, he and I just talked a few days ago. Like I said, Charles Mann and I, Tim Johnson was my pastor here in Orlando. So I'm still connected with a lot of those guys. So I would say, yeah, but to your point about draft picks and even Dwayne Haskins and even the type of quarterbacks, Jordan, that make it to the league and stay. I think times are changing, even with the perception of African-American quarterbacks. Even there's been some stuff going on now about management, about, African-American coaches getting a fair shake and, even making the game more accessible on all levels to people of color. Right. I'll say that. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, you have a great point there.
Right, so and I know this was your playing career was in the late 80s, early 90s, that was the range. What was the culture in the locker room like? I know football's always been a semi-diverse sport. You always had, your black players, you had your white players, you had your, whomever else. But what was the locker room like? I know now I think you might see, I don't know, some more acceptance, and for example, more players are being more open about their mental health or different transgressions with the police and things of that nature. But what was it like, back when we didn't have really phones, social media, a way to talk about stuff?
You know what? With that mindset is that you'll hear all athletes or most athletes talk about that sports is the great equalizer.
Right.
Like the ball doesn't care what color you are, if you can kick, if you can throw, if you can catch, if you can hit, doesn't really care. Guys in the locker room, to your question, Jordan, when you got guys in the locker room, all you want to know is can they contribute to helping you win games? And if they can do that, sometimes you put up with their antics. Sometimes you put up with their off the field stuff. For the most part, coaches put up with it to a certain degree until they, go over the line, and then they'll cut them or trade them or whatever. But that to me is really, I wish our society was like that, because when it comes to sports, it's like, can you help us win this game?
Right.
And if that's the case, bring it on. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Right. And that's good to know. I think from someone who actually experienced and played in the league, I think we all have our ideas and our opinions. And it was this, and it was that. But for someone to actually say, it was black and white. This is what it was,
The only difference, I think now, though, to your point, Jordan, is that when you talk about what was it like in the locker room, the equality was there the same in terms of can you contribute to the team. I think the difference is maybe what you might have been looking for is that social media comes into play now.
Right.
Like guys have, they got their social media channels, and that can kind of mess things up and muddy the waters a little bit depending on who the guy is.
Right. So if social media was around back in the day, would you have been a heavy social media guy? Because you're not really big on social media now. So
I'm not big. I'm probably not. I'm kind of a private guy anyway. Yeah. I probably not. I use it as a necessary evil. I think it's great for what it's used for. Obviously, your podcast is reaching thousands. I'm saying that. But you heard me say that, right? Okay,
I did.
There you go. Yes. So because of that, Jordan, it's a necessary evil. And yes, I need to post more, and hopefully I'm getting people to post for me and to go on social media. But I do it because I have to. If I didn't have what I have and doing what I'm doing, I probably wouldn't even have a social media channel.
Yeah, and I could see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so
I'm an old school guy.
No, I know. don't know. I can't see. If it was up to you, you'd probably have a flip phone. To be honest with you, you wouldn't have no iPhone.
No, I love technology now.
Oh, so you like it, but you just don't want. I get you. I get you.
I like the technology.
I get you. I get you. So we play. I thought that we played this upcoming Sunday. I think they moved it or something. We played on Thanksgiving. I don't know if I'm gonna watch that. Ruin my Thanksgiving like that. You guys beat us. What was it? 25-3.
You know what?
Matchup. So my prediction is 28-3. You guys. Thanksgiving.
Okay. Now, is that your prediction, or that's what you're hoping for?
No. Well, both. It's both.
Okay. All right. You know what? At this point in time, I think it'll be a battle. It's just like I said, they're battling for last place. In all seriousness, too, there's just a, kind of that jostling back and forth because of Redskins, Cowboys, the Washington football team, and the Cowboys. I do believe that you said earlier that the Cowboys are going to bounce back. I think that. Now you have to look at this, Jordan, maybe later. Maybe the best thing that happened to Dak is that he got hurt.
And I was literally like, see, you're in my brain. I was literally thinking to ask him about Dak because I didn't see it because I've been boycotting them all year. But when I heard that he snapped his ankle in half, the first thing came to my mind is like, he's not gonna get the money that he deserves. And I mean, I don't believe that he's a $40 million quarterback. He hasn't, played up to that level. But I definitely believe if Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, some of the other guys are $35, $36 million quarterbacks, then Dak Prescott definitely at least equal. And
Jordan, look at his numbers. Sorry to cut you off, but look at his numbers and look at his production. He is a $40 million quarterback. If he had the offensive line, and we didn't get into this, and I know we're running out of time here, but we didn't get into this, but if Tom Brady had some of the offensive lines that some of these other quarterbacks had, where he's had those quarterbacks are running for their life, then Tom Brady wouldn't be Tom Brady. But it's the offensive line that matters. If you go back to Troy Aikman, and you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, if you go back to Troy Aikman, look at the offensive lines he had. Look at the offensive lines that Emmitt Smith were running behind. People kind of minimize this, and it kind of gets caught up in the wash. Offensive linemen are very, very valuable. They're not paid that way. Some of them are getting to that point. But the game in the NFL is played at the line of scrimmage, blocking and tackling. If I can block your guys and you can't get back to me, you're done. Lastly is this. Go back and look at the Super Bowl against the Giants when the Patriots played the Giants. Michael Strahan and those guys, they were all over Tom Brady. He lost against the Saints. They were all over Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott is a $40 million quarterback if he has the protection, and he's performed. Look at the stats.
Yeah, I mean, and even still, I think we're in week 11 now, and he still has thrown more yards than Lamar Jackson. I just found that out this morning, so that's a crazy stat. We're almost done, Uncle Fred, so I just have some questions. I asked my listeners on social media. I said, well, if you had a chance to ask, you don't have often to talk to an NFL player, let alone somebody who's won a Super Bowl. So if you had to ask them any question in the world, what would you ask them? So I have a few here that I picked, some really good ones, and then we're just going to close it out. So first, what was your funniest in-game moment?
Oh, my God. My funniest in-game moment. Probably for me personally, we're playing against the New York Giants. And I'm standing on the sideline, and I hear this voice calling me from the stands. Hey, Fred. Hey, Stokes. Hey, Stokes. And Jordan, there's an unwritten rule. When you're in another team stadium and people are calling you with that type of voice, do not turn around. And I knew that. And for some stupid reason, I turned around, and this guy started cursing me, and then I moved down. He was like, yeah, you better. And my teammates were laughing at me because, like, Fred, you don't turn around.
So I'm going to raise you that story for this one. I thought you were going to tell this one. My dad just told it to me a few weeks ago. I don't know what game he was at, but he came down in the stands, and he was calling your name, and you were just ignoring him. And he's like, Fred. And he's like, I'm Regina's brother. And you looking at him crazy. And then after the game, you were like, oh, like you. And I was like, Dad, you going to embarrass yourself like that?
Here's the story from my point of view. Dad has his point of view, but here's my point of view. Again, remember, I just shared that story when you don't turn around. So your dad I don't know if he was calling me, but I knew eventually a security guy was calling my name. And we were in the Fulton County Stadium playing against the Falcons. And I kept hearing, hey, Stokes. And I'm like, dude, I'm not turning around so you can dog me. You know what I'm saying? And so, and then I heard it, and it might have been your dad said it too, but I heard a different voice. It might have been your dad. But when I turned around, I looked at that guy, the security guy. I didn't look at your brother per se. And the guy said, "Hey, that guy says he's your brother." And I never really focused on it, but I was like, "I don't have a brother." And I walked away.
That's what he said. And I was like, "Dang, Dad."
I think he was saying your brother-in-law, but I didn't even let him get all of it out. I was like, "I don't have a brother." And I walked away.
That's so funny. That is hilarious.
Hey, but see, that was more embarrassing than funny for me. I felt
Yeah.
so bad. Yeah, I felt so bad. Like, boy, I'm sorry. You are my brother. You are my brother.
Yeah, now y'all are butt buddies. I mean, I know when he's talking to you on the phone.
How do you know when he's talking to me on the phone?
Because he just gets loud, and then he gets the country comes out of him, and I hear the accent, and I'm like, oh, he's talking to Fred. And then he just starts get on the phone, and he'll just start roaming, and I'm like, oh, he's talking to his brother-in-law. Okay.
Jordan, not the country voice. The country voice comes out.
I start hearing lots of finnas and.
I got it. I like it.
So
but yes, those are two of probably great stories right there. The Giant story and the one with your dad.
So what's the biggest life lesson that you've taken from a coach, any coach?
Oh my goodness. Coach Gibbs. I've had a lot of great coaches from high school through college. My coach in college, Art Russell, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach college football. Coach Georgia Southern football. Coach Gibbs. And the reason I say Coach Gibbs, Jordan, for this very reason, I've used it in a lot of my stories, but Coach Gibbs, coaching the Washington Redskins, he's won a couple of Super Bowls. We would sit on Saturday night before the game in the hotel, and a lot of us players will sit around and talk about life, like real life, not just the game, like real life. Hey, my kids aren't getting any sleep. Hey, my body's hurting. Hey, I feel like they're gonna cut me. Hey, I'm just stressed, just real talk, and then we pray for each other. One night, Coach Gibbs came in one of those rooms, and he came in not as a head coach, and he says this. He said, "I'm walking in here as a man that just happens to be coaching an NFL football team that's got two boys, and I have some issues and he started talking with us, and he continued to come in there a couple of times, and I've seen him since then. But just that story with him, Jordan, just let me know that you're never too big or you're never too important for the people around you. I don't care what your job title is. That's why on our Lent Brother website, that's lentbrother.com, it says every man, no matter your position, status, or title, needs another man that he can get down to the lint in the pocket of his life.
All right. That's dope. That was a nice little shameless plug you did there. I like how you did that. So, and this one was a repeat question. So, who is the best player that you've ever played with or against, and why?
The best player from my position playing defensive end, the best player I played against was a guy named Jumbo Elliott. He played offensive tackle with the New York Giants. Jumbo and I had some battles. Matter of fact, your dad called me, Jordan, one night after we played the Giants. It was a Monday Night Football game. He called me the next day and said, John Madden was talking about you. And I thought, great, I'm young. John Madden, the great John Madden talking about me. And he said, yeah, John Madden was like, look here on this play, Jumbo Elliott just pancake Fred Stokes. I was like, what? But Jumbo actually helped make me a better player because we had some serious battles. So he's probably the best player in my position. I mean, I played against some great players in other positions, but that's one I have to say.
That's good. And let's see, last one. Who's your favorite niece? I mean, I'm joking.
That's play-by-play, baby. That's play-by-play with Jay.
No, but I think the last question I have is, so your NFL career, great career, and now you have another great career. You're a motivational speaker. You speak across the world. So do you think that your NFL career helped propel you towards where you are now? Or do you think that, it was just, that's who you were going to be regardless of whatever happened in your life?
Why wouldn't you end with a great question, Jordan? That is good. Wow. I'd probably say that you are really good. I'd have to say that my NFL career helped propel that. I think it gave me a bigger platform to speak on. Gifts are given without repentance. There are some great players of all sports in prison. They just made some bad decisions and got caught, or continue to make some bad decisions. There's some on both sides, men and women. So my gift to be able to speak and do what you and I are doing now, I think was always there. The NFL just gave me a bigger platform and a springboard to kick me off into the world.
Well, I thank you, Fred Stokes, for giving me just a little bit of your time. You're such a busy man. I had to go through his calendar. I had to go through his assistant and get it put on the calendar. I'm like, it was like a month ago too. I'm like, good Lord, I gotta track down my uncle now. But no, I really appreciate you giving me the time. And you are my season 1 finale, so this is awesome for me.
Jordan, thank you for having me. And yes, I try to keep it real, even with everybody else, because my manager, Mike, he gets on to me if I don't go that way. And so I just try to keep it that way. It helps me with everything I got. But what you do tonight, you call me. For everybody who's listening out there, don't let Jordan, don't let her slip up on this. She called my personal number. She has that number. Everybody doesn't have it.
I did. I was like, did you forget? No, but he didn't forget. I know he would never forget me. Not me. Maybe other people, not me.
There you go.
But no, Uncle Fred, thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening to an entire season. So 10 full episodes of me. I'll be back the top of the year for season 2. Thank you guys for listening to episode 10. This is your host, Jordan, aka Jay, giving you the play-by-play each and every week. Peace.